Hello and welcome to the Angry Guppy, a new podcast through Angry Catfish, where we dive deep into bike racing, tech, products, community. We have Nick here, who just did Northstar bicycle race, which is a 630-mile race from the Twin Cities up to the Canadian border and back. And this is the first edition of Oh Fuck Buddy. Nick, welcome to the pod.
Hello.
So yeah, you just did a 630-mile bike race last Wednesday. How was it?
It was fast, and I think I'm finally, just yesterday, was pulling the last bit of butt sores off. So yeah, it's taken me like a week to recover, but it was good. Yeah, it was fast, and the weather was perfect.
Sweet. Yeah, tell me a little bit about the race organization and kind of what it means to you and I guess to the community here in Minneapolis or in Minnesota in general.
Yeah, I think I chose to do this race just because it was pretty accessible. The distance is really daunting, but I wanted to get out and be by myself, and that's kind of what the race is about, is just being solo. And whether you're racing it to set a record or go super fast and just pedal your ass off, or you want to tour it, you can do everything in between that too. It's just whatever you want it to be, and that's what Brian Rea, the director, has kind of set it out to make it like that. So yeah, it's super accessible.
Nice.
Yeah.
You said how long has it been going on?
This was the 7th year, and I believe Brian, the director, has done it all 7 years.
Wow. Okay. What's the history of Brian? Do we know anything about what he did before Northstar? Did he do any ultra riding or?
I don't know. I know he does a lot of touring with his dachshund and his wife.
Okay.
But I don't think he was doing any ultra events, and I think he basically just did this to do an event with other people, and then have a story to share with
Sure.
it. I think it also came out around the same time that the route itself actually landed, was created. He just made a race out of it. So yeah, there's no I think his history is just him wanting to ride that route and wanting to make an event out of it.
Sure. Do you know why he stopped at the Canadian border? Just because it's Minnesota, or is it?
I think, if I remember correctly, there's a pre-established route. I don't remember what it's called. I mean, a lot of the race goes along Historic 61, the bicycle route. But yeah, I think that is the route, and then turning around was just an extra way to get back to Minneapolis or back to St. Paul,
Sure.
where it started.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of gear did you use, or what did you use for a bike? And
Well, yeah, this year I used this an Envy Melee. This is my 3rd year doing it. Last year I used my Allied gravel bike with 38s just for super comfort, or 35s, and then the first year I did it on a Specialized Diverge. So yeah, few lessons learned every year.
a lot of different, 2 gravel bikes and then a road bike.
Yeah, this was the first year that it was a road-specific bike, but I knew that I did not want to ride after learning my lesson the first 2 years on 23s or 25s, or even anything sub 30 width-wise. So yeah, this year I ran the Rene Hurst Orondo grades, and I think they go to market at 31, but they actually measure at 35. And yeah, if anybody's ever ridden on the Munger Trail, it sucks, and it is required. You can't ride on the highway; you have to ride on the trail. And from Hinckley all the way to Duluth, it's pretty shit. So wider tires are definitely recommended and appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, I know what happened to you last year, and I don't know what happened the first year you attempted it, but you went through kind of a roller coaster last year. So I'm sure, being able to finish this year, and I mean, I don't know if you've mentioned it yet, but you took a course record, which is really sick.
Oh, yeah.
We can kind of dive into that a little bit later, but
yeah.
I know that you had a really rough time last year, but you still finished, and a lot of people would, be in your situation and be like, all right, fuck this, I'm done, dude, I don't want to continue on. I'm going to call it, but, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like you, out of a lot of the people that do these rides and these events, I feel like you have the mental toughness of anybody, like harder than anyone that I know. So,
Thanks, dude.
yeah, it's pretty inspirational for sure.
You know, the crazy thing about this race specifically, and just like being like the distance that it is, and like, you know, just on the note of like calling a race or like DNFing, is once you're up there and it's night, one, you like don't have reception even if you wanted to call it. And like last year, I really was like, I almost made the call to have my partner come get me, and I realized like I could fucking walk, and she still would not be there for like hours and hours.
Where
and
were
hours. I think I ended up staying in 2 different pit toilets, one just north of Silver Bay, and then
Which, for reference, like Silver Bay is what, like a 3.5-hour drive, 4-hour drive from the cities?
I've never driven it. I've
Okay.
just ridden it.
Yeah.
And then
And like Sasha was in Mini, like your partner was like
home.
yeah. So like
it wouldn't make sense to like have like just, especially for like a mechanical, like just keep riding or keep walking or do what you can. And last year I did a little bit of everything. I think after like my 4th flat and the debacle, which we can maybe get into later, but I ended up walking for like 2.5 hours just because I was like, I don't even want to change this how many flats I had. I just walked in the middle of the night. Yeah, from that.
Oh, I didn't even know he did that.
For that like that first pit toilet all the way to Schroeder.
Oh wow.
And then finally slept for like 3.5, 4 hours in Schroeder. But there again, like you're in Schroeder, there's not a lot of service. If you wanted to quit, I mean, you're just sleeping anyway.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of chilling. And so it makes it a little bit easier to keep in the game.
Yeah.
Or to like, it forces you to like reset, which I really love. But
yeah. Well, just from watching the tracker, you know, this year is kind of, you know, looking at other riders that were in Duluth, and then you see them stay in Duluth for either the remainder of the race or they're there for the night, because it, you know, Duluth is like from the Twin Cities to Duluth, you know, that's the easier spot to actually find places to stay if you needed to.
Yeah, I think like historically, at least the 3 years that I've done, a lot of people shoot to make it to Two Harbors for like one of their first bigger resupplies. And this year I actually didn't do that. I like was like I'm just going to get through Duluth and Two Harbors and then keep my stops minimal after that.
Yeah.
But which worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, well, I guess going into your first stop and like what your strategy was for the race, what was your first planned stop? Because I know last year you went to Two Harbors, correct?
Yeah, if you ever get to ride like the full length, or I don't know if you have or not, ridden the full length of the Munger Trail.
Yeah, I have from Minneapolis to basically, what is it? Is it Moose Lake?
Moose Lake is like in the middle of that, I believe, on the Munger.
Does it end before Duluth though, right? Doesn't it?
No, it'll drop you right into Duluth.
Oh, okay.
But there's like a separator in the trail that stops in Carlton.
Okay.
Anyway, there's my first stop, which I feel like people just sleep on this that do this race, and I don't think it's too early. It's at a mile 126. It's in a small town. I don't even know what the town is called, but it seems like there's just like a few houses, but there's this spot, and it's one gas pump that doesn't even take credit cards, or any cards, and you have to go in to pay. It's called TJ's, and it's right off the trail too. Like you don't even, like you pull up out of the woods and you see this spot. And the first year I like happened upon it and I needed to get water, so I stopped there, and that's been my go-to ever since. But they have like a full deli and like full on like ice cream in there, which for future reference, stop there because it's great. But that was my first planned resupply. It's at mile, I think like 123.
Okay.
And I knew if I wanted to get from there or get through Duluth and Two Harbors that I wouldn't be able to go from St. Paul all the way through. So stopping a little bit earlier than Two Harbors was my plan this year, and then just hauling ass through Duluth and Two Harbors to get to Silver Bay before the last gas station closed there, and that would be my final.
And what time was that at?
getting to Silver Bay. I left the gas station at 6:15
p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you made it from basically the race starts at 7 a.m.
7, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
7 a.m. in St. Paul, all the way up to Silver Bay by 6.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, we had a good tailwind, and yeah.
Yeah, because what mile is Silver Bay?
217.
Oh wow. Okay, I thought it was like under 200.
No,
Holy shit.
217, just
Okay.
over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was my plan, and again, I don't think I would have had this strategy just going into it and like knowing the things that I know about how my body, like I feel racing this race, and like riding on the Munger is so draining, and like splitting it up a little bit and having that like first, whatever mileage that is under your belt, and then finishing the last 25 off after that first stop is huge.
I mean, if anybody's ever done the Munger, you know how basically it's just a very straight line in a very like cape of trees, and it's bumpy. It's just you just lose your mind a little bit because it's just very boring, but it's very safe.
Yeah, it's extremely safe, and that's like one thing that we didn't really touch on about the history of the race is like he does, as the North Shore is adding trail, the route is changing to like take more and more of that trail. Okay. So the first year I did it.
Do you guys? Sorry to cut you off there.
Good.
Do you take the trail in Duluth, or you take that goes along the Superior?
Yeah. So
you ride that.
You drop in like out. I forget the like linear or whatever. I forget the towns that you go through, like the suburbs that you go through before you actually hit proper Duluth. Yeah. But like out by Proctor, and then you just drop in. And the 3 years that I've done it, there's always been construction in that section. So that's another like caveat to this race is like if there's construction, you are so stressed about sticking to the route because of Brian's rules of sticking as close to the route as possible. Yeah. And he's very chill about it. In reality, like if you have to detour, you have to detour. But that is an added like a bit of chaos every time you get to Duluth. There's something going on there. But yeah, you drop in like right in Canal Park, and you're going. Yeah, you go take along the lake view.
That's really cool. I mean, it's got to be so pretty too.
Oh, it's pretty, but depending on the time of day, it's fucked. Because there's so many tourists, and sure. Like you want to be like courteous and a good steward of the sport, and like not just be a pathlete, but at the same time, like especially for me this year, like going through, I didn't put a foot down in Duluth. Wow. Yeah. So I'm like trying not to like just cruise past these people with strollers and like in what are the quad cart things that they rent out in Canal Park.
Oh the like pedal we have
so
mini Haha Falls.
Yes, yeah. So you're like navigating all of that depending on the time of day you get through there.
Sure.
But yeah, and then you get you go up through the Gitchigami Trail, and this year there was a detour in that park too. So I actually went up to the Two Harbors Road. I think that's where like the actual bike route 61 starts for that section between Duluth and Two Harbors, where it's just a straight shot, like 25 miles. It's great. But yeah. Nice. But then, from that point on, you're like North Shore riding.
Yeah. And, for anyone that's never ridden up to North Shore, like that's along basically a highway with pretty minimal shoulder, isn't it?
It depends on the section. Like that section that we talked about from Duluth to Two Harbors is really nice and wide. Yeah,
but once you get like past Two Harbors, like in Silver the Grand Marais area, it becomes nothing because I've driven up to Lutsen before and a couple other places, and I've done a trip up to the Canadian border that started in Grand Marais, but I don't really remember much. We did a lot of gravel riding around that area before we got into 61, but it's not pleasant. I mean. Not that much traffic, but there is still traffic, and it's, going 55 miles an hour by you.
Yeah. There's, like I said, there's certain sections that have like a 3 foot shoulder, but there's like cracks everywhere. The one thing I will say, like north of Silver Bay, depending on the time of day again, or the time of year you're doing that, whether it's just riding the route randomly or doing the race, it starts on Wednesday. And then like Thursday, sometimes into Friday, depending on what your time is on that race, you are hitting weekend traffic and campers and logging trucks, and then throw rain into it. And it's some of the scariest riding I've ever done.
Sure.
Especially like coming back with a little sleep or no sleep at all. Like this year there was no sleep, but the prior years there have been, and you're just drowsy and kind of fucked mentally.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy thing about this, and I'm sure that's probably why Brian starts it on a Wednesday instead of it being like on the weekend,
right?
because of that traffic.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I mean, I don't know. I just thought about that when you were just mentioning it. I didn't really think about the weekend traffic, but sorry, we got a little off track there, but I wanted to kind of. We obviously heard your strategy about riding to Silver Bay, but what were you using to fuel yourself for the majority of the ride? And like, let's also chat about your total stop time. From the race tracker, it was it said like 30 minutes, but then you told me like later it was like about 3 hours.
Yeah. So I mean, I think every like spot tracker, or what's the other one? Spot tracker or like map progress in general, like the tracking with the trackers is always off.
Yeah.
And like the most reliable data is your bike computer or your cell phone after you're done with the race, looking at your like total elapsed time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my total stop time was like exactly 3 hours and like a few seconds. Which
is crazy over a 630-mile race. 3 hours of stop time is actually really insane.
When I finished, people were like, "You had 34 minutes of stop time."
Well, that's what when we were at the
way.
riverfront in St. Paul waiting for you to finish. We're like looking at it, we're like 34 minutes, no fucking way.
Yeah.
You gotta. There's no way.
There is no
way.
I mean,
I honestly, I wouldn't put it past you though. Like, but 3 hours is still very, very that's a little time off the bike. Over what was your total time?
30, just under 39 hours.
Yeah, 39 hours.
But so the spot tracker, it lags so much. So the way that I've seen it in the past and for this race too, like your average speed goes way, way down. So you're averaging like 13 or 14 miles an hour,
sure.
but you have this epic elapsed time or stop time of 34 minutes.
Yep.
In reality, my average was like 17 point something or 18 something, and then my total stop time was longer.
Okay,
yeah. So fueling, right? That was.
Yeah, sorry, we got sidetracked.
That's all right. No, it's.
I would imagine this podcast is probably gonna be a lot like that because we're just talking.
No, and I think that's what it should be.
Yep.
I don't think there's any reason to script anything for this. So fuel for like nutrition. I think mid-year last year, I like really started trying to dial in like how high carb mix could help me and carry less like nutrition like food and heavy foods that might not even actually matter or help me at all. Mm-hmm. In fact, some of the foods I thought were like super beneficial were not at all. So I was carrying a lot of high carb mix. I think I had 1,200 grams with me. In these bottles, they're 950 milliliters. So I could put 100 grams in that, and that's like roughly 700 calories.
Did you just have those pre-bagged before
I pre-bagged them and kept them in my saddlebag with my layers. And, like that is like part of the game, and part of the thing that I love about ultra distance racing is like the game that you have to play in advance with like exact and precise planning. And like we'll get into the conversation of like sleep deprivation and like that kind of stuff maybe later, but like I planned out my stops. I planned out how long I wanted to be at each stop, and I broke down every single bag in advance.
I've not done any crazy distances that you have, but I've definitely done that where I have pre-bags made if I'm like going up north or something, and I need to have it for the weekend instead of carrying around a big scratch bag with me
with a spoon in it. Yeah.
So no, that's cool.
I mean, that makes that science that much easier. Like when you stop. Because I had mentioned that I set a timer.
No, it's really crazy that we're at a point in this sport where we have the stuff to do that.
Fortunate for sure.
Very and I don't know. I've been racing for a while, but ever since adding
A long while.
over 20 years.
Yeah. Compared to my 6.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've done a lot more than I have, but as in, but like we're fortunate to be in a point in the sport where we're able to dial in the carbs that we need. Instead of having to try to figure out how to fuel ourselves, you can just do it based off of your calories burned in the duration that you think you're going to be able to do this. Like, there's so much testing that goes on before a race or a ride, and you're training, and you learn how to cope with this, like the training load you do, and then how to fuel yourself.
Right.
And it's really cool that you can just figure that out by calculating, okay, I'm going to do 6 hours. I'll need such and such and such.
Right.
And then you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, well, I think I need a gel right now.
Yeah.
I've been riding for 45 minutes. I should probably do a gel right now.
I could really go for a drink of water.
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't mean to interrupt, but like there is an aspect of it where I like love that science, but then there's another aspect of it, and the doomers out there, people that have done Ozark Gravel Doom and like that ride, like fucking crazy distances, single speed, know this, that like there is a point where you just say fuck it, and like you put whatever you want in your body because absolutely. You just like can't keep enough in anyway. Like, dude, I burned in 38 hours and 45 minutes, I burned almost 23,000 calories.
Wow.
Like there's no fucking like
yeah. It doesn't matter what you're
high carb mix or not, dude. Like I'm gonna eat an entire pizza and still not feel like 100%.
Yeah.
After a couple of days.
No,
of
it's
doing
funny.
That.
I did a training ride last night where I had 2 high carb mix bottles. It was a 3.5 hour ride.
Yeah.
But by the time I hit 2.5 hours of drinking high carb, I was like, I don't want any more of this.
Right.
That's why I'm blown away that you just did that.
So I carried it with me.
Yeah.
But like I said, like there's just hits a certain point where you're like planning out the window. Okay, my body's just like, I don't want to fucking take another sip of this shit. Yeah. And like, actually, I don't think I've emptied those bottles.
Like, should probably check for mold.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I have 2 bags of high carb mix left in here. So I planned it out to like empty that all.
Yeah. No, it's funny because you go into, anything, training, race, and you have these high carb mix bottles that you want to do, and then you do, let's say 6 of them, and then you're like, cut me off. I do not want to drink any more of this shit.
Right. Especially like if there's like sun involved and you're just like overheating and not drinking enough water or like fueling with other shit. But
so like, I guess what other things did you eat while you were out and about?
Well, I mean, I have like been trying to focus on healthier carbs than just like eating a bunch of sugar, and like as great as that is, and I do still really appreciate that, I try to like limit the amount of like artificial sugar, added sugar off the bike in my regular diet when I'm not recovering. So I have found that like dates and fig bars and that kind of stuff like have a lot of really good carbs for you. So I did a lot of like Lara bars, which is like mostly dates and like added other stuff. And Snickers with me too, just to like mix things up. And that's one thing that I really experimented a lot with over the last year is like, there's not like, you don't want just like one thing the entire time. You just like want a bunch of everything. A little bit of a lot. You know what I mean? Like you just want a variety. So yeah, I did that. Snickers I had with me just to switch it up. Nerds clusters, which is kind of
always primo. I don't
classic.
Not to get off topic, but I mean, I did a 24-hour mountain bike race last year, and the majority of my food consumption was nerd clusters.
The Wasau.
Wasau 24, and like
the recipe for success, dude.
Yeah, same thing for you. Like I 4, 5, 6 hours in, I'm like, no more high carb for me. I'm just gonna eat whatever's on the table when I come in for my lap, and that's just what I did. And it was always either peanut M&Ms or Nerds clusters or just like some other random shit. And it's when you go into it, you're like, I don't know what I want, so you just got to get a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And like, obviously with Wausau, it's a little different because I have like a campsite with a tent and a table where I can set up food and stuff, but you have to like carry it, which makes it harder, for like a point-to-point race instead of like lapped race. But that's why I like the Wausau 24 because like I just do an hour lap and then stop for 2 minutes and then grab my stuff and go again.
Rest in a chair for a second. And
oh, I never sat down.
No?
You can't.
Oh, really?
Well, you can, but like that's the recipe for disaster, dude.
They're frowned upon.
Like you're gonna be like, oh, this is so comfortable. I don't want to get up.
Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah, for sure, dude. Okay, so that actually we should talk about that. I think you had mentioned like stop time and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So one thing I did for this race that I haven't done before and I will continue to do, and maybe this is probably like giving away my like
your secret
little race strategy or whatever, but like setting a timer from the second you step off the bike at your stops is fucking massive.
Oh,
and saved me because I would walk in, I'd get off my bike, set my timer for 10 minutes, go in, get my stuff,
nice,
and then I come out and take my shoes off right away. Like for future reference, for future Nick, if you actually watch the entire thing of this, like take your shoes off at every stop. Like just especially for ultra stuff, dude. It just helps.
Those dogs breathe, huh?
For real. But yeah, so the timer was set for 10 minutes. Walk in, get your shit, come out, and I was like, I'd like get my bags of high carb out, get that taken care of, beats drinking water, eat whatever I found in there, usually hot food, just something real. Mm-hmm. And then that 10 minutes is up, and I allowed myself like 5 minutes after that just to like get things ready and go. That's it. And I did that for the first 2 stops, and that helped massive. That means that I had a total stop time of 30 minutes in the first half, which was real. Mm-hmm. And then the other 2.5 hours for the race was at the border. I allowed myself 20 minutes. And then on the way back, I struggled a lot with being dehydrated and the sun and just headwind and everything else. But yeah, timer.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Super good idea. Especially since, you and I have both looked at like doing like a Mid-South. We just started this week, but we weren't able to make it because we were working. But,
something. The Mega Mid-South?
Yeah.
That's what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like, good for, you. I'm looking to join you and like you kind of, mentoring me because I've never done anything like that before except for like Wassa 24, but that's like totally different.
Bro, you're saying this on a podcast. That means we're doing that now.
I know we are.
We're going to fucking do it.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
All right, dude, we're doing it. We're going. You're going.
Yeah, of course I'm going.
We're going.
I wanted to be there.
Okay.
I wanted to go. I mean,
I'm
really.
I
was bummed to see like looking at stories on Instagram like this morning. I'm like, oh man, I wish I was there.
Dude.
But it's my own fucking fault for not taking time off, and
I could not have been competitive. Still, I think a week out.
Yeah. Just like appreciate the timer. Like I'm sure a lot of the people that are doing this or listening, they might take that up.
Yeah, I mean, do it. Like it just helps with that discipline because, like you said with Wausau, like you sit down, especially like a day in or like 12 hours into a race, like you don't want to fucking get up. I don't care how fast and how disciplined you are, you just don't like.
Yeah.
So holding yourself accountable, like getting in, getting out, and having that process is huge. And it's something I can't wait to see if I can like hone in even better.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we kind of listened to your strategy, your fuel, and everything. I want to get into like obviously, I mentioned it earlier, but you got a course record, which is really sick. Obviously,
Thank you.
You won it.
Yeah.
It was first time winning it, right?
Mm-hmm. First time winning any race ever.
Oh. All right. Well, there you go. First time winning any race. Let's get a round of applause for Nick.
Thanks, dude. Thank you.
Let's talk about like what it was like racing it and like what competition you had. It seemed like it was pretty competitive up until a certain point, but I mean, you guys had perfect weather. It seemed you had a tailwind.
Yeah, the first day was
which
beautiful.
is really nice.
Yeah,
you had a headwind on the way back, didn't you?
Yeah, for like a majority of the day, and it just kind of.
Well, yeah, like I guess like it'd be cool to kind of hear your perspective on. We obviously talked about Silver Bay, Two Harbors, the border. I'm curious, like what times you were at those places. So you were at Silver Bay at 6:15.
Yeah.
What time did you get to the border?
11:30. And
11:30.
So yeah, my first stop, which I had kind of like planned out a little bit, like what time I, in a perfect world would like to be at these stops, just because, and I was not holding myself to like this crazy standard of like having to get there, just because I knew, 1 mechanical, 2 mechanicals, or like last year I had like 8 mechanicals total.
You didn't have any mechanicals this year, did you?
I had 1 spoke, which I thought I broke in Duluth.
That's right. Yep.
And I was like babying it, and then I got back and realized that it didn't even break; it just came unthreaded. Thank you, Envy. No, for real. Thank you, Envy. But the everything else was fantastic.
Yeah.
But
So you guys at the border at 11:30
p.m. Yep.
p.m.
And allowed myself
20,
25 minutes.
So what was that? Basically, this 11:30 to like 6 a.m. I mean, sun probably came up around like 5:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, was that pretty rough for you, or were you all right?
Oh yeah, we didn't really touch on caffeine at all.
Yeah.
So that goes into like, no, it wasn't rough. To answer the question, it wasn't.
That's. I mean, you.
And normally it is for me.
Yeah. I mean,
for everybody.
If you've been riding for what at that point that's what.
7 would have been 24 hours. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, you're
18 to 20.
Yeah. I mean, also you did a couple weeks ago. You did the double dam, which is 480, and you did rest during that, right? Yeah.
For like 6 hours, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool to see that you were able to just not sleep at all or have any big rests.
Yeah.
Which that's also super inspiring. So, or also I don't know if it's inspiring or it's more just like idiotic.
Well, dude, okay, so like that is like such a massive thing in bike packing, and like you talk about like the backwoods, like Doom and the Tour Divide and Colorado Trail and Arizona Trail Race, and all of those races, like sleep deprivation is a massive conversation because it's fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
Whether there's traffic or not, dude, like you're riding on no sleep and you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
People are doing that. But one thing, this race specifically, I knew that it was going to be, I wanted it to be sub 40 hours.
Sure. Yep. That was your goal kind of going into it, sub 40?
My goal is 36 hours.
Okay.
But yes, sub 40. And I knew that I could do one night of no sleep and still be like coherent and like, but the one thing that I had been working on, and a couple other bike packing friends that I have been doing, is like completely removing caffeine from our diets well in advance. And this is not something new at all.
Sure.
Like, I've actually heard it on Bikes or Death when I started listening to Bikes or Death podcasts in like 2018. That there was people doing it then too, and I'm sure people have been doing it before that. But removing caffeine, and then when you need it, it actually works, and it doesn't take copious amounts of caffeine to actually keep you not drowsy.
Yeah.
So yeah, this time I didn't introduce it until Silver Bay, so until like 6 o'clock. One Red Bull, and then I bought.
Easy wings.
It did. And then I bought a 1 5-hour energy that I actually ended up splitting in half around 2 in the morning.
Okay.
And then took the rest of it in the morning, like around 7 or 8. And then 1 Red Bull in the afternoon the next day, and that's it.
So that's what you did for caffeine, was two Red Bulls and
1 5-hour energy that
crazy.
I split in half.
That's crazy.
And there was no point where I was like drowsy.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it was that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the sleep deprivation thing is crazy. I mean, I've only ever done a 24-hour race, which, I somehow managed to do with not taking out caffeine. I mean, 24 hours is not really anything compared to your crazy long endurance race that you usually do.
24 hours is still 24 hours.
Yeah, but
100 miles is still 100 miles. I will say this until the day I die.
True. That's very true.
Like, I don't care who, like, if you can do 100 miles, you're doing 60 miles. That's a lot of miles,
yeah.
dude.
Oh, absolutely.
And
but, just in perspective, like, that was a new thing for me, doing the 24-hour solo race last year. And
You had never done, like,
my longest ride before that was 12 hours.
Well, that was Day Across Minnesota?
Day Across Minnesota, and I did Everesting in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
That took 11 hours, 11 and a half hours.
Did that in Duluth?
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, sidetrack.
Yeah. But, the sleep deprivation thing is very real. And like, you know, you look at all these endurance athletes, ultra endurance athletes, especially like Lachlan Morton. I mean, look what that guy's doing right now across Australia. It's fucking wild.
Dude, seeing those photos of him, I feel like I felt exactly how he feels.
But he stopped doing the rides. He made sure that he found places to rest.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like the sleep deprivation feeling.
Right.
Because he was hallucinating so bad in all these events. And, you know, it's real. I mean, the guy, I did the Wassa again this year, but I did 12 hours. And then the guy I was camping with, he did the 24. I didn't really have any hallucinations at all for the 24-hour race, but he talked about all these hallucinations he had from basically 2 a.m. until the sun came up. And I was like, holy shit, I never dealt with that. Like, I didn't have any of that. Yeah, it's crazy, like, how everyone is different.
Yeah, it does. It definitely affects everybody differently. Like, I was kind of just, like, talking post-race to a few people that finished Northstar this year, and, like, they're all talking about the Munger Trail, going back to that, like, because it's so straight and so long, if you hit that in the middle of the night on sleep, like, with no sleep, your hallucinations are crazy. Like, and I've had hallucinations in that section too. But yeah, I think like Lachlan did Tour Divide, and I think he went, was that last year he did, and he did every 48 hours, he stopped for 8 hours. Yeah. And like that, and still like, he didn't set a record, did he?
Yeah, he did.
He did
12 days.
12 days, yeah. Okay, so like that shit, there's something to be said about that. Like, yeah, you can still do it responsibly, but I just like, I don't think there's ever a point where racing is important enough to like fucking kill yourself over it.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, for sure.
Like,
yeah. No.
Anyway,
well, if anybody's listening and you want to get into this stuff, make sure you actually take care of your body, because as Nick said, racing is more important than basically potentially losing your life. So not that this is that dangerous, but I mean, yeah, sleep deprivation is really bad. So you just got to make sure you're being aware.
Sorry,
but
that was a dark topic for a second, dude.
Let's go over the race, the course record, and then I think we'll kind of wrap things up. Unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about. But yeah, what was competition like? Oh, also we should note that in Northstar you're not able to draft.
Yeah, I mean that to me, for like a bike packing pavement ride, this is the only like pavement ride that I will ever really do a race. Like, I don't do crits or anything like that. I mean, you know that, but like, I mean, that's what drew me to the race, is it is 100% solo, like, and it's strict. There's no drafting. There's not even like riding side by side. And like, you can, you know, Brian can like see on Spot Tracker like when that's happening, but like a lot of it goes back to the grassroots of things, and like there's just some integrity with the race. So starting the race, like the 2 years prior to this year, like I was like, all right, this is just fucking cool, because I'm going to get out of town and just be by myself for the next 48, 50, 60 hours, whatever. And like, I look forward to that. And that's kind of what drew me to the race. This year, part of my strategy was just like getting out in front of everybody, just so I didn't have to deal with like the riding next to people. Not that I don't want to talk to people, but this is not the race to do it until afterwards. Or we did a neutral lead out for like 2 miles. So the person that like was riding my same pace, we could have easily drafted and probably improved both of our times significantly. Sure. Yeah. And we didn't. And we, you know, you can ride side by side for like a total of 30 minutes, I guess. But even that like made me, I just didn't like want to be in a situation where it was ever questioned. So we would like, I would let him get way ahead of me out of sight. And then once he was out of sight, I'd cruise up to him and pass him. And then he'd let me do the same thing. And then we just like.
What a weird, like.
We did that all the way to Duluth, dude.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about that. That's just wild.
And like, it was, I didn't really enjoy that part of it. Like just like having to like keep tabs on somebody in front of me and making sure that I wasn't riding with him. But, I mean, anyway, there's that competitive aspect that I haven't experienced, so that was really good for me to go through it, I think. But yeah.
So what do you want to talk about that person that you were competing against at all, or I guess like
I really didn't know like what the field looks like. Like I mean, if there is a registration and I'll go through and like know, like if I know who's racing, like maybe change my strategy a little bit. I think everybody does that. But that person like that I was like pace that was like very similar pace to me is like super strong, and I still am not like completely sure exactly what happened with that. But we were like back and forth the entire like leapfrogging on spot trackers, and anybody that watched.
Yeah, I remember watching and being like, what the heck? They're just back and forth, back and forth.
Sometimes I'm sure it looked like we were like riding together on spot trackers, but it's just lagging. But I think I passed him for like the last time in Silver Bay when I stopped there. I was on the side of the building because I didn't want him to see me, a little strategy there. And he didn't see me, I don't think. And he passed me, and then I let like 5 minutes go by. My timer had just gone off, and I threw my shit on, and I was like chasing for a while. And I think he stopped in like Tofty or something. And then the last time I saw him was when I was coming down from the border.
The border, yeah.
Because there's like a 3-mile climb at the end that you climb up, descend down to the border, and then
you have to
climb
come back
right
up.
away.
Yeah, I know.
Like the longest climb. But yeah, I saw him while I was cresting the top of that climb on the way south. And then, I don't know. I think there was like some fit issues and saddle sores, and Garrity had a mechanical as well, unfortunately. But
when's the next person you saw then after that them?
Oh, so yeah, that's another cool thing about this race is that because it is exactly an out and back, you see everybody that's behind you or in front of you too, depending on where you're at.
And that's also got to be like kind of in a way like adrenaline, because you're like, oh wow, like I got that far,
Yeah. Well, and you can like kind of track to see how far behind people are from you or ahead of you.
Yeah.
And the rules are not so strict that you can't talk. So it is one of the coolest things with like 20 other people while you're either ahead of them or behind them. You see these people and you're just so stoked to see somebody else when they're going the opposite direction. So you're just like, hell yeah, like let's go, dude. Fucking get it. And I saw Brian, or maybe I didn't see Brian. There was a couple people that were like knew who I was in the middle of the night, and I didn't know who they were because you just like can't see anything really.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with like these blinding ass fucking bike lights on your helmet and your handlebars. But like, it's just such a cool thing to see that after not seeing people for a really long time. Yeah. Whether you recognize them or not, and they're just like rooting for you and you're rooting for them.
Yeah.
Good vibes for sure.
Yeah. We not to make everything about Wassa again, but we had that at Wassa too, where you're just like lapping people and you just everybody's giving each other encouragement. It's really, really cool. That's why I love that race. But that's cool. Course record total time was
38 hours and 49 minutes.
Okay.
43 minutes, something like that.
And what was the previous time?
I don't even remember. I think it was like
I think it was 42.
42 hours.
And I think it was Kate Coward did it last year.
Kate Coward, yeah. Kate Coward set the overall record last year. Yep. And then the year before that, David Tishan set it. He's from California.
Okay, wow.
Or actually, I think he's from Switzerland, lives in California, came out to ride.
That's cool you came and did that.
And we were 20 minutes apart, and he set an FKT. That was, I remember that year. Oh, it was so good. But anyway, so I think it was beat by like 4 hours.
Okay.
Which is, I'm stoked on and like happy to have gotten the opportunity to race. And
well, it's a redemption from last year. I mean,
absolutely.
You finished third?
I finished third last year, first
third.
Men's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which bravo to Kate and who was the other?
Riella.
Yeah. That was awesome. I remember just like watching and like Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
So
everything that was going on, and I saw that was happening, like looking at the spot tracker and stuff the next day after I woke up, and I was like, fuck yeah, like this is happening, and there's no way I'm going to catch Kate at all.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, first and second place, and that doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't happen at all.
It's so cool.
It's awesome.
And I was super jazzed about that.
Yeah. So yeah, great job on the redemption
Thank you.
year. I'm glad
Yeah.
you finally got that victory under your belt. I was gonna ask you. I forgot when we were talking about gear. It's not really gear.
Oh, yeah, we didn't really.
But the reflective tape on the bike is that a requirement from Northstar?
Yeah. So you have to have a reflective vest.
Okay.
It's
it
like
only-
very rando style, actually.
Yeah.
Like reflective vest, and then tape on the wheels, which I've already taken some of this off, like going through the bike. But
Yeah.
wheels, seat stays, and then the front of the fork.
Yeah.
And
I
then-
hold my head here so you can actually see it.
Yeah. And then I think like two lights front and rear.
I see that you also set up the skis.
Oh yeah, dude.
Did you have them? You had them on the Able last year, did you?
Yeah, I've
you
used
did.
aero bars all 3 years.
Okay.
What I haven't done ever before this race was those freaking blips.
Oh yeah, I bet that made a huge difference instead of having to
Dude.
go like this.
Yeah, and like imagine being on a flat and like having like a 2% grade and
Yeah.
then a descent, and like
Yeah.
how much you're shifting with that, and just like staying in the bars, in
Yeah.
the aero bars. So comfortable, so efficient, and I think like I'm gonna
Thank
go
God
like,
for electronic shifting.
thank the Lord for electronic shifting.
Do you remember when they used to be like bar end shifters on the
Yeah, dude.
on the skis?
And like
Yeah.
set up some brakes like a true TT down there.
Yeah.
No, I think that's as far as this is as
Yeah.
far as I'll go.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and then we really didn't talk about gear too much, but I mean, as you
I
can
mean,
see
you
here,
can kind
So-
of go into it. Yeah.
Apidura top tube bag. And this is the Revolite Terrapin, which is like an 8-liter bag. And normally I use the Spine Lock, which is like a 10-liter option and a 16-liter option. This is cool because it's a removable dry bag here,
Oh yeah, I remember you showing that before the race. It's pretty sick.
and it has like the release valve in it too, so you can kind of smash everything in there, and
Nice.
that's nice. And then I use the Apidura, like the race hydration pack, and yeah,
You didn't finish with that, did you?
the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took it off like right away though, 'cause
Oh.
it was.
I
Really,
just don't remember. I don't know. Maybe I was just looking into your beautiful eyes instead. I took a couple pictures that made you give me a smile,
yeah,
and you're like,
yeah, dude, I was pretty fucked.
I bet.
Dude, my mom was like, "You look like you could ride 100 more or 600 more." I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna pass."
I don't know if you know
out.
one of our customers, Eddie Caro.
Oh,
He was down there because he just saw me waiting there, and he's like, "What the heck are you doing out here?" I'm like, "Oh, waiting for my coworker Nick to
He was
finish
just
up."
chilling down there.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
chilled down
sick.
there for with us. So I went up to him at the end. He's like, "God, he looks fresh." I'm like, "Yeah, he does. He looks so good."
Dude, I felt like I was gonna pass out on everybody
I
I talked to.
I think it's just something that people said the same thing about me after the 24-hour race. Like I was internally and mentally just
Yeah,
fucked, but I looked fresh.
like looking fresh as
poker
hell,
face.
but then underneath, just like
Yeah.
gushing blood out of my ass.
Good poker face.
Yeah,
Exactly.
hell of a-
Wausau
hell of
24.
a poker
All that
face.
rubbing on the saddle, just bloody butt.
Oh, dude, it was so brutal. Oh,
All right. Well, sweet. I think we're gonna end it here, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
no,
I think we got it all
Yeah.
our T's crossed, even though we didn't really have anything set up. But yeah, hopefully this is not the last. Maybe I'll do a Schwamigan podcast, and it's a little bit shorter than it's only a 40-mile race, but it's eyes popping out speed.
yeah, for sure, dude. I don't know if I could actually even do that, to be honest. But
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
we should also get Claire in here. and
Yeah,
have her
our
chat
other
about-
ambassador, Claire. Maybe. I mean, she's already done a podcast about the dam that she got a course record for the women in one, which is fantastic.
Dude, yeah. I could talk about that too. Yeah. We should definitely chat with her.
Yeah,
about
we got to
that.
get her on the pod. But yeah, thanks for listening to the Angry Guppy. why do we call it the Angry Guppy? It's just because
we're the Angry Catfish.
We're the Angry Catfish, like but yeah,
the guppies of the catfish.
We're the young ambassadors, even though they're not all young anymore. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you get to hear from us again.
Yeah.
For now,
feel free to reach out with any questions on the race, or like any like questions you have on gear, anything. For sure, we'd be happy to chat about.
Sweet. All right. Bye-bye.